welcome back to LateNightSportsRadio.com. If you'd like to call in, the number is 585-633-7487. Again, that number is 585-633-7487. I'm back here with Jameson Welsh from BelieveTheHype.com. Jameson, talking about NFL here. What's worse for you, timeline-wise on your Twitter? Reading tweets from Saturday college football or Sunday NFL for the amount of moronic tweets you have to read?
Well, NFL is always funny because, college football is a lot of people, everyone watches the NFL. Everyone watches the NFL. Some people don't watch college. So, NFL Sunday is always crazy because there's always something going on. There's always so many different, elements and things going on. But at the same time, the expectations of people's, thoughts and what, because a lot of people, most people never play football. A lot of people watch it. They have a slight understanding of it, but they've never played the game. They don't know certain things. Like when it comes to schemes and coverages and why do teams do certain things, they really don't understand how things work. So it's very interesting to see that. And, people think when it comes to shutdown corner, people think that the corner's not supposed to let the guy catch the ball. It doesn't really work like that. Deion Sanders is probably probably the best corner of, our era, and the biggest game of his career, one of the biggest games of his career, he got lit up by Michael Irvin for over 250 yards. So, it doesn't quite work that way. I think people have to kind of understand that, things just aren't, it isn't Madden where you can shut somebody down the whole game. It's a little different, but people just don't understand that concept.
Well, yeah. It's like in the NBA. At one point, Shane Battier was called a Kobe stopper, and he was holding him to 25 points a game when they faced off. And it's okay. It's a little different, but you look at the NFL, yeah. Richard Sherman's catching all this crap from all these fans, and it's not everybody's acting like he's a bum now. The NFL or the quarterbacks have figured him out. I don't think it's necessarily that they figured him out. It's just you're not gonna no pitcher is gonna go 100% on saves. No closer is gonna go 100% on saves. Nobody's gonna shoot 100% from the free throw line. It's just stuff like that. The best corner is gonna get beat, every once in a while, and people don't realize that.
Well, that as well, that as well. I think a lot of people have to understand that no one's perfect. Everyone, I think a lot of people get this myth, that no one's perfect, everybody's just perfect or the great ones are this or that. It just really doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I think the expectations people have aren't realistic. I think a lot of people have these crazy ideas in their minds of what an athlete should or should not be like. And it's just crazy. And hopefully it gets controlled sooner than later. A big case of this, Richard Sherman. You love him or you hate him, but Richard Sherman's a really good corner. I think he's the best corner in the league. I don't care what scheme he's in. He makes plays, and, whether they throw to him or not, he's a really good corner. A lot of people say that he's overrated or he's this or that because he doesn't cover, doesn't follow the receiver around the field. Well, that's not his job. His side is to whoever's in front of him, he guards, and he does what he does. He has a couple people get a couple catches on him, and next thing you know, he's overrated, he's this, he's that. And people don't understand it, man. These corners, we're watching the game tonight. These Saints corners are getting abused. So it's not even like that. So it's just an overreaction. You get overreactions every game, and every play is an overreaction. And it gets kind of old at times.
Who have you found to have the most, as far as reactions, unrealistic expectations as a fan base?
Well, there's several. There's several. You guys are sport because when it comes to NFL, I think every fan base before the season starts has expectations of being pretty good. I think every fan base has an idea okay, well, if this, and that happens, we'll be in the playoffs. Or if this, and that happens, we can make it work. And that's really not the case, but a lot of fans really have that kind of expectation, so that's kind of how it goes at times. But I think in football, like obviously the Cowboys have, crazy expectations. I think to an extent, Pittsburgh Steelers fans are that bad too because they're not a great football team. They have some nice pieces. They're okay, but they're not a dominant football team anymore. In baseball, of course, you have the Yankees. Their fans are always, crazy. You got to have Red Sox fans because, they're the new fad now. It's popular to be a Red Sox fan now. So you got to have them in the mix as well. And in basketball, of course, you have the Lakers. Laker fans, a lot of the Laker fans out there are beyond crazy and have these wild, ideas, but, it's kind of crazy how it goes sometimes.
And it's weird, like, I don't know, it's just as the fan base grows from the team getting better, the more stupid fans they get. Like Boston, when I was growing up, there wasn't that many stupid people that I knew that liked the Celtics. But now that, once they became good and, Pierce and Garnett and Allen got together, it's, tenfold how many dumb Celtics fans I've had to talk to. Same thing with the Red Sox. Growing up, they weren't any good. And then all of a sudden they get good at, at the end of the, at the end of the Yankees dynasty. Now everybody's a Red Sox fan, and none of those people know anything about baseball. I think it's just the best fan bases, the biggest fan bases have the most stupid fans. It's kind of like, a big city, when you compare like saying like Detroit has a lot of murders. Well, that's because there's a lot of people there. And Chicago, same thing. It's the bigger the fan base, the more stupid people you get.
True.
Now, NFL-wise, Eagles, 49ers today. I got some complaints for the NFL. I know I live in Nebraska, and so we're going to get Minnesota Vikings and Kansas City Chiefs games from time to time. But can we not have these Chiefs-Vikings games when there's a good game on Fox, and then it gets overlapped by regional coverage? There's got to be a fix for that other than buying the NFL package, right?
Well, you got to get the Red Zone package. The Red Zone package is pretty cheap. I think it's like $10 a month. It's a really good thing. I would set the Red Zone package.
Red Zone's only $10 a month.
I believe so. I might be wrong, but I believe it's like $10 or $12 a month. It's not that expensive. The whole Sunday ticket is where they get you for $45 or $50 a month. But the Red Zone package itself is not that expensive.
Yeah, that's a way better deal than the NFL package in general, because I would never watch, especially when all the games are at the same time. There's no time to watch all those games. I definitely need to invest in the Red Zone package. But as far as, Eagles 49ers, what did you see from today's game? Do you have any different opinion on, Kerry Williams' comments about Chip Kelly's system tiring them out?
Well, you know what? I think at the end of the day, I don't think that was the issue. I think the problem with the Eagles is that their whole offensive line is out, except Jason Peters. So, it's very hard to run the ball when you have backup linemen and you're going against a top 5 rush defense, that's been around and been playing with each other for the last 3 or 4 years. I think that's been the bigger issue than anything, because if you have a 2-yard line and you have 2 cracks to get in, you don't need to be in shotgun formation. When you're in shotgun from the 2, that pretty much tells me you can't run the ball. And if you can't run the ball from the 2, then you don't deserve to win any games, especially a road game. If you can't punch it in from the 2, especially when it's spread out like that, then you know what? You cannot win it. You can't win a game that way. But it led me to believe that when I look at the Eagles team, watching this game, that Nick Foles isn't that guy. And until they get that guy, it's not really going to happen for the Eagles. He's a good regular season guy, puts together a lot of nice numbers, but until they get an elite quarterback, the Eagles will never do anything in the playoffs because Nick Foles cannot take them to that next level. He's a guy that can work well within the system, but we need your quarterback to be a D-man like Russell Wilson was last week in overtime when he took over that game and just drove those guys down the field. Nick Foles can't do that. And until you have a quarterback that can do that, you're just not gonna. It's not gonna happen for him, and that just got reiterated today because good quarterbacks win games like this. they win those games with no doubt. You give a good quarterback 21 points off special teams and defense, it's over. It's over. But Nick Foles couldn't get the job done. And the Niners, I still think the Niners are a very talented team. I just don't think the Niners are as good as they've been in the past. And I still think they're not out of the woods yet. They're still a good football team, but you got to get more consistency out of the quarterback position because the quarterback position is so important. And if your quarterback's inconsistent, well, you're going to have an inconsistent record. And Colin Kaepernick is too talented. He's too talented to be playing like this. That's the problem. It's one thing if he just wasn't that good. He's just way too talented to be doing this. So hopefully he gets it together, but I'm not so sure he will this year.
Does it bother you that, I mean, you know, Kaepernick, what is this, his second full year starting?
Correct.
Do you think, you know, I guess because of the rookie wage scale, they're able to do it, but do you think teams are too quick to give up on young quarterbacks? And, you know, I mean, what happened to the years where teams went through growing pains? I mean, for God's sakes, with Eli Manning, every year they don't win the Super Bowl is a growing pain for me. But I mean, you look at, you know, Aaron Rodgers had, you know, a year or two that weren't particularly great. It's like, unless you're, I mean, I know Brady kind of screwed it up for everybody by winning 3 championships in his first 5 years, basically. What's the deep? Why do you think teams aren't willing to go through any growing pains whatsoever with a quarterback?
Well, because you don't have time. You know, you just don't have time. The NFL is not for long. And if you're a team, if you have a coach, especially a young coach that doesn't have a whole lot of track record, like for instance, like guy like Dennis Allen, he's not a great coach, but you know they gave him. He's had some pretty bad options. I mean, David Clark's probably his best quarterback that he's had, and he's only had him for like 2 or 3 games. So you know, it's kind of a rough situation. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you know, you have to win and you got to progress. And if you don't have a quarterback, it's not going to happen for you. And that's why coaches are very quick with hook because their jobs are on the line. You know, it's not like the old days where you had 4 years to make it work with a quarterback, and if you made it work, then great. If not, you move on. In this day and age, you got a year. And if your quarterback's not showing any sign of, you know, promise, you got to get somebody else who can, and that's just kind of how it goes. And there's so many quarterbacks coming out of college and, you know, offenses are evolving. You got to kind of figure it out one way or another, or else you're going to be on TV, you know, breaking down games.
Well, I mean, Eli would have been gone after pretty much his second or third year in New York. You know, Aikman might have been gone after his. I mean, look at Tannehill. I mean, they're already giving up on him to go to Matt Moore. It's like, why wouldn't you just?
Tannehill can actually play. Like, I mean, the Dolphins have a lot more issues than what we know. They have a lot more issues. Tannehill can actually play. But you got to think about it. Eli want to ring in his 3rd year. You know, so if you use the Eli example a little bit different because he made it to the playoffs in his 2nd year, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, sorry. He won it in his 4th year. He made the playoffs in his 2nd and 3rd year. So, you know, it's not that bad. You know, he was okay because he at least won a division and got the playoff games. You know, these other guys,